Welcome back to Sunday Night in America. The dream of owning a home may not be dead, but you might drop dead when you see the price of a new house, especially for young people starting out.
It's dying because people aren't interested in the American dream anymore.
It's too expensive. We've got ours, but our kids and our grandkids can't afford homes.
A car costs what my parents bought a house for.
What we wanted when we were young, it's not something really our kids can afford.
So the question is why? Is it a lack of inventory, or has inflation hit the housing market more dramatically than other sectors? By the way, how can both sides really run on the economy this November? Republicans cite inflation, Democrats say the stock market hit record highs. So who's right? And the Trump tax cuts are set to expire. The top marginal rate's around 37%, but that does not include state, local, or sales taxes. God asked for 10%. How much is enough for government? Here to make sense of this is famed investor and O'Leary Ventures chairman, Mr. Kevin O'Leary. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. Let's start with housing. What do you think is driving up the cost of buying a home? And if you can scrape together the money or get a loan, is real estate, in your judgment, still a good investment?
Well, real estate's always been a good investment for 200 years. I mean, that's proven out over history. But what's changed the cost of housing is the rapid increase 2 years ago in interest rates. And the anticipation was that rates would come down. In fact, only 12 months ago, we were thinking 7 rate cuts, of which none have appeared, because inflation remains rampant. We're still north of 3%. So housing is adjusted based on very simple equation to interest rates, and they're high or higher than they were. So mortgages are that 7, 8, 9% depending on your economic status, and that's a lot more than 3.5% 4 years ago. So that's why housing costs have basically gone up 30, 40%. And it's really hard to see that change. I'm not sure that's going to change at all. And then we had this weird outcome of the pandemic where people started moving away from metropolitan areas into areas, more where they wanted to live and get better schools and everything else. And the prices of those houses in rural regions went way through the roof. It's a new America. It's a digitized America, and housing's more expensive.
All right, speaking of America, we have an election coming up. I guess early voting starts pretty soon. It is rare to see both parties running on the same issue. But Democrats cite jobs numbers and the market hitting 40,000, and Republicans cite inflation and just general sense that all is not well and the market may be on a sugar high. So, I mean, which side has the more compelling argument when it comes to the economy?
Well, it doesn't matter who you are or what party you're associated with when you're the incumbent and you're dealing with inflation, because inflation is a very simple equation. There's 3 aspects to inflation that really hurt you at the voting poll, and here's what it is. It's energy on transportation, so that's oil and gas. It's housing, which we just talked about, and then it's food. Now, it's protein, chicken, fish, steak. Those are the ones that have not gone down in value since the pandemic. They're up 30, 38%. And you're seeing it really change the lives of fast food restaurants and everything else. Those 3 attributes are not good for the incumbent. They never are. Inflation's never good. And having them being repaired over the next 4.5 months, I don't think so. So we've got, inflation sort of north of 3% when the Fed says it has to be 2%. That's their mandate. But it's really sticky in food prices. And that's where people go into the grocery store every 2 days and say, wow, this piece of chicken is worth 40% more than it was 36 months ago. That hurts at the poll.
All right, if a future president were to call you and say, look, Kevin, we cannot ever tax our way out of this deficit. There has to be a reduction in spending, but neither side wants to talk about that. What is the right kind of mix of more revenue versus spending cuts, or should we just abandon this notion of a balanced budget? Is that just kind of a fool's goal to have, that we're going to have a balanced budget in my and your lifetime?
That's a great question. Here's the answer. 1974 and 1975, I'm going to give you an example of two countries that solved this problem. Canada was one, and Norway was the other. And they did different path. They both had massive energy reserves. And there's a reserve in America, in Alaska, called ANWR. It's one of the largest reserves of oil on Earth, untapped, unused. And so what the Canadians did is they put a royalty on it, same time as the Norwegians did. But the Norwegians put into their law that all the royalties, they charged a royalty per barrel. Every dollar of that had to be spent reducing deficit. The Canadians didn't do that. They let the government spend it any way they wanted to, and of course governments waste money and they just squandered their wealth. But if you look today at what Canada has versus Norway, Canada is one of the highest in debt per capita nations on earth, but Norway, they're winners. ANWR for America is what's going to solve this problem.
Mr. Kevin O'Leary taking us to econ class. I wish I'd had you in college. I probably would have a little better portfolio than what I have right now. So thank you for joining us on a Sunday night.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.